Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, we'll kick things off with one of the more interesting sales I've seen this year for Black Friday or possibly Cyber Monday. I'm not quite sure as to what store this is exactly, but they've bundled the Xbox Series X with a physical copy of FIFA 23. Unfortunately here, things get even worse. I mean, if we zoom in on the image, we can see that this is an Xbox One game. So not only did they pair a physical game to a digital console that can't play physical games, they've also paired the wrong generation. But moving on from that, and next up here, I've got an update to something we talked about yesterday, and it's not necessarily good news. So yesterday we talked about DG Voodoo 2 being updated to version 2.82. For those who may not be aware, DG Voodoo 2 is a graphics wrapper that converts old graphics APIs to Direct3D 11 and 12. And if we take a look at the GitHub here, it says it's read-only. The developer flat out says they don't have time for this project, so they put it into archive state for a while. There is no point to have new issue entries waiting for answers in vain. So I wouldn't necessarily say DG Voodoo 2 is dead, but I would argue that this is going to be a long-term hiatus. My guess here is that someone ends up forking this project and possibly continuing it on under a different name, which is one of the big benefits of open source. If someone decides they're no longer going to update a project, or they don't want to, or they can't, well, projects can live on. And speaking about projects on GitHub, next up we're talking about the Perfect Dark Decompilation project that I'll drop a link to in the description below, and this one just got a nice update. So apparently the Perfect Dark PC port now has support for unlocked frame rates, and here's a video showcasing the game running at 165 frames per second. And surprisingly running pretty darn smoothly. And continuing to talk about PC stuff, next up we're talking about dosdeck.com. If you're interested in DOS games in your browser for free with controller support, well, this is a very interesting website. As of this video, there's currently 16 games available, and I would argue all of them are pretty heavy hitters, at least they were back in the day. And I can confidently say I've spent quite a bit of time playing these games. They bring back a ton of memories. In fact, playing Wolfenstein here, I remember the cheat code, ILM. And it still works. Unfortunately here, as of this video, mobile support is not available yet. It appears they are working on it. But I was able to get into a game and play a little bit. It is a little clunky here, not the best experience, so you may want to hold tight. And speaking about mobile, next up we're talking about Nintendo DS emulation on Android with PizzaDS. If you haven't heard about PizzaDS, I don't blame you. It doesn't exist just yet. However, this news was making the rounds today, and apparently they're working on a PizzaDS. So this news comes right from the PizzaDS Discord. The developer themselves says, "Poll, what should I do now? Work on PizzaDS, work on another pizza emulator, work on fixing all open bugs and feature requests, work on network multiplayer improvement, or something else." And the overwhelming response here was work on PizzaDS. If you are excited about PizzaDS, I wouldn't hold my breath just yet. Someone asked if there is an ETA regarding the release of PizzaDS, and the moderator said no, sorry to say development is paused. So it may be a while. Moving on, and this one is real quick. We're talking about Kid Icarus on the NES ported to the SNES. And this is thanks to Rumble Minzy. I might have mispronounced that one. Anyways, they say inspired by Infidelity NES, they took on porting the original Kid Icarus from the NES to the Super Nintendo. After much learning and help, they're happy to release version 1.0. The game is fully complete aside from a few small bugs, and it is up over on archive.org. Moving on, and we're talking about EA, and this is either good or bad news, depending on how you want to interpret it. Apparently they're working on player-voiced characters in-game, and they did file a patent for it. If you are curious about this one, I'll drop a link to the article and the patent in the description below, and feel free to check out both. I'd recommend checking out the article first. At a high level here, this technology is not just capturing your voice and having the character in-game regurgitate what you say. It's capturing your voice and then generating further content from it. Think AI. Now, don't get me wrong, while it would be cool to have the character in the game use your actual voice, at the same time I'd probably use it for something else. Use someone else's voice and make it hilarious or make it possibly cool. Anyways, here I am a bit concerned about who owns the voice, who owns all of that stuff once it's in the system. Does EA own the rights to use your voice? What if little kids end up using it? Does EA own their rights as well? I might have missed that stuff in the patents, so if I did, let me know in the comments below, but at the same time here, I don't necessarily trust a big corporation with this stuff. Again, I could be wrong and I don't want to be a naysayer. It is a pretty cool technology. Next up here is a very quick PSA if you're using Google Drive for desktop on Windows or Mac. If you are using this and you've had files recently go missing mysteriously, Google has noticed the same thing here. They've admitted there's an issue and they're working to fix it. In the meantime, do not click disconnect account within Drive for desktop. And do not delete or move the app data folder. Hopefully this gets fixed in time, and if you haven't noticed anything, hopefully that's a good thing and nothing will go missing. Next up here, we're talking about Swami, and Swami has just released a brand new fan-made Attack on Titan game. This one is built in Unreal Engine 5, and it's different than the one that was released previously. There were a bunch of things in the previous game they didn't like, and they ended up remaking the entire game. If you are curious about this one, I'll drop a link to their videos in the description below, and I do recommend checking it out. They are very interesting. And speaking about interesting, last up here, we're talking about Nintendo Switch emulation on PC with Yuzu, and Yuzu just got a brand new update you may be interested in. So as of mainline version 1634, which is the latest update at the time of filming, we've got a performance improvement. It improves game performance on low-end devices. On top of that, we've got some new features here. It'll display the firmware version on the bottom of windowed mode. The mouse movement has been optimized here to enable mouse panning for when you drag your mouse outside of the window for Yuzu. And there's a new validation process when reading Miis. They say here, Mi Amiibo that have been registered on Yuzu in the past few months will be displayed as corrupted. In this case, use the Restore Amiibo Applet's Restore function to fix the corruption. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Let me know your thoughts about absolutely any of it in the comments below. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.